It's really good to be back in Delaware. It's been a long time. I graduated in January of 1990, so all you guys were not born and even thought about it at that point in time. So how many accounting majors do we have here? Any? The accountants didn't come out. And that's normal. I am Jekyll and Hyde. I play tug of war with myself every single day because there's the very safe side of me, and then there's the entrepreneur and the risker side of me. So I fight with myself every single day. It's hard being me, and you can just ask my wife. But I'll just go real quick, but I'm really going to spend most of my time on a company that we built over 9 years. But since I was small, I was ingrained in being an entrepreneur. My first job was pulling weed for $1 an hour. And I remember the lady coming out and telling me, "You better start pulling them or you're not going to get paid." And this is like I was in 4th or 5th grade. Shoveling driveways back in the blizzards of 77, 78. I remember buying my first little color TV with my own little money when I was 10 or 11 years old. Then I started running a landscape business through high school, and I was running it based off of my moped. So I'm carrying rakes and shovels around. And then through college years, I was working construction. I built decks at night. So I would go to my construction job by day, and then I go find some decks to build at night. So it's been ingrained in me. So there was a moment back in my youth, which I'll never forget. If anybody's from northern New Jersey and from Boonton, there's a place called Marcella's Sports, a little sporting goods store. And I told my mom, I said, I'm going to own Marcella's Sports one day. And if it's not that, I'm going to own something. So I knew way back, because I said it to my mom that long ago. My first, out of college, or actually even before college, I bought my first house. And how I did that was I took cash advances. So back in the 80s, the real estate market was going through the roof. And at that time, I was a big Donald Trump fan. I'm a little embarrassed to say that now. But I'm man enough to admit it. So I was a big fan. I read all his books. So somehow we figured out how to buy a house when we were still in college. We took cash advances to a couple of guys, and we did. Then there was a movie called Wall Street. Anybody see the movie Wall Street in the 80s? Well, you might recognize that name, Blue Horseshoe. It was Blue Horseshoe loves Blue Star Airlines. So that's how we came up with our name. And we put together a partnership, and we bought 6 properties about 6 months out of school. And then 6 months later, I formed Blue Horseshoe 3, and I put together a bigger deal where we're buying 9 units at this stage. And this is a deal where I was not even going to have to put any money in. So this is where I'm like the deal maker, and I'm going to make money off of other people. We gave our deposit, and of course, who do I ask to get into this thing? I asked my parents, my uncles, friends. About 2 weeks after I gave the deposit check, I had a bad dream. And the bad dream says, don't do that investment. And I backed out. I called the guy. He's still my friend today, believe it or not. And I said, we're out. He's like, you can't get out. We got to do this. And thank God we did get out. Because right at that point in time, the real estate market went down like this. Timing has never been my virtue. But sometimes I put up there about your gut. You're going to have to make a lot of gut choices in your life as you go through your career. And sometimes you have to go with your gut. Don't go with your gut all the time. Have facts. But sometimes you got to go with your gut. I just woke up with a bad dream and made a decision that was one that my family members still like me because they got their money back. So I started my career working as a CPA. I started with a firm called Cover and Rossiter up in Wilmington. They were probably a 35-person firm at the time, and I always viewed myself as the owner. I always did things a little differently, and I always looked at it, if I owned this business, what are the decisions that I would make? And I remember there was an example where financial statements had to go. Again, I'm a first-year accountant. I should not have done this. I should have been fired over it. But the partner came up to me and said, what happened to ABC's financial statements? I said, oh, I sent them to the client. I signed the opinion and sent the financial statements. And you just don't do that. And I remember him, and it didn't really make a lot of sense to me at that time. He looked at me and just went, and just kind of walked away. Because he was happy I took the initiative, but he was probably really pissed off that I did something I wasn't supposed to do. But I just always viewed myself as the owner, even though I wasn't. At the time, I started doing a lot of transaction work. Unsupervised, because they didn't do a lot of transaction work. So I started representing people who wanted to buy businesses. And I really liked putting the deal together. That was my virtue. I love trying to figure out how to make things work. And I didn't know that was really going to be the platform for what I eventually did with Apple Tree, which we're going to get to. But it was the basis for what I learned how to put transactions together and grow a company by acquisition. I made partner fairly young. I made partner in 6 years. But then the Jekyll or the Hyde stepped in, and I started getting bored. So I formed Cetrulo Morgan Group. I left in 2002. I was also going through a divorce at the same time, marital divorce, so I had business divorce, marital divorce. I was as low as you possibly could get. I was underwater, because in order for me to start Cetrulo Morgan, I had to write a big check back to my company to compete. But it's what I wanted to do. It made me a better advisor of starting a firm from scratch, because you don't think of all the little things that you have to do as an owner when you come into an existing company. We were a business lifecycle partner to entrepreneurs. So we can help you from the beginning with your business plan, all the way to the end, and then actually sell your business. So that's the twist, is that we would actually be able to broker your business at the end. Fast forward, I don't want to talk about this much. You guys aren't here to talk about CPA world, but I merged my firm in September with a firm called Stefano Slack. So we're a 60-person firm based in Wayne, Wilmington, and Westchester. So Apple Tree. So this began by luck. So timing was right once in my life, and fortunately it was. So as I'm going through litigation to leave Cover and Rossiter, I'm working out of a friend's office that owned this company called Apple Tree. And at the time, he had maybe 15 people doing telephone answering service work. So a lot of medical answering. So when you call, the medical office after hours, or your property management, doing those type of calls. So we were a 365-day company, 24/7, never shut down. So I'm sitting next to him. He gets a phone call that somebody died that owns 5 of these centers. He says, I would love to buy one. And I said, well, I can help you with that. And he's like, well, I don't have any money. I said, well, I can get you money. He's like, well, I don't have any money to pay you. And we shook hands right there and said, I'll take equity. We didn't talk about how much. We didn't have any conversation. So my old shop teacher said in high school, do as I say, not as I do. So don't do that. If you do get into business with somebody, make sure you have it in writing. That is, without a doubt, the first rule. Fortunately, we had a good relationship, and it all worked out. But we got lucky, because it doesn't always happen. Because I deal with that every single day where there's not agreements among owners. So we didn't get that transaction. Unfortunately, we didn't, because it was way too big. We were doing about $1 million in revenue, and that company was like $2 million. So fast forward a few months, we got a call about a deal down in Pensacola, Florida. It was perfect for us. It was a small one. I think it was $550,000 acquisition. We didn't have any money. We were both underwater, but we had a good friend in a bank in Wisvis, and a loan officer named Andy Yatzis, who believed in us. And we bought it 100% financing. So now the bank didn't fund the whole thing. We got the seller to hold some of the paper. The bank did probably 70 or 80% of that deal, and the seller held the rest. And we closed that deal, and it was a perfect first deal for us, because down there, they were all leased employees, which means it was turnkey. He handed over the keys to us, and everything just kept on running. We didn't have to go set up payroll. We didn't have to go set up employee benefits and all that stuff. Unfortunately, we didn't have to do that, because even though I'm a CPA, I have very low attention to detail. I don't want to be involved with details. And my partner, he makes me look like I'm very attentive to details. He's always looking 2-3 years ahead. So it was perfect first deal, because we had no infrastructure at that point in time. We get back from that weekend of closing that business, and we get a call from the broker that said, hey, the deal in Maine that you bid on fell apart. Would you like to bid on it? And originally we made an offer of $1.2 million for it. Again, we have no money. So I called my buddy Andy at Wisvis, and I said, hey, the deal in Maine opened up. Are you open to looking at it? He said, yeah. So we go up a month later, do due diligence. I'm up in Maine. I said, hey, can you is the bank definitely in? Because our money goes hard here on our deposit. He said, yeah, absolutely. So I'm walking in a couple weeks later to play golf after work, and he calls me and says the deal's off. I said, why is the deal off? And he said, head of credit squashed it. At the time, I didn't know the head of credit. I said, you got to get this meeting with the head of credit. We got to get this deal done. He says, well, we have executive meetings Thursday. I said, how about Friday? He's like, yeah, we have executive meetings Friday. I was like, how about 7 a.m.? So my first success was getting 3 bankers and my partner up and in the bank at 7 a.m. in the morning. I'm an early riser, so I'm always up. I found out years later that it was a courtesy to me because I was a good friend of the bank because I referred a lot of business to the bank. It's going to be a 15-minute meeting. Thank you very much. Sorry we can't do it. Turns out that we were in there for about 3.5 hours. And me and John, we really just started working with each other, right? We just did our first deal 45 days earlier. But I knew the numbers, he knew the operations, he knew marketing, but what we went with is we said, we can get you out of this if we get in trouble. And we went and gave them all the transaction history of this industry from this one broker. And the head of credit, a guy named Glenn Coker, his secretary kept coming in and saying, next call, your next meeting, and he kept going, no. We left that meeting. We thought, okay, maybe we'll get some partial funding and then we'll have to go out and get friends and family. They called me before we got back to the office, a 10-minute ride. They said, have everybody here Monday. This is Friday now. This is banks. They don't move very fast. Have everybody here Monday at 4 o'clock. I said, what, for 500? He said, no, for the whole thing. And that launched our business in 2 ways. One, we got another person in the bank at very high level who believed in us. He actually became our cheerleader when we eventually had to go to loan committee. The head of credit is not the most rah-rah kind of guy, right? He's dealing with credit. But he was our cheerleader. So that launched our company. And of the 19 transactions that we did, it was by far our best transaction. So we looked at each individual center and looked at the EBITDA that came out of each center. And the EBITDA that came out of that center was 54%. Our average was about 38 from all our centers across the country. Our goal was 40. So that was the meeting that really launched the company. This is just a little sidebar. So at that point in time, I started getting frustrated with this business broker. He was really kind of a hindrance for us to get deals done. I said, I've always represented people who want to buy business. Why am I not representing sellers? And that's really where the money is. On the buy side, you're getting paid on an hourly basis. On the sell side, you get paid on the success side. So you get a percentage of the value of the company. So I went out to Las Vegas to research the business. And I thought it was a great opportunity as an add-on piece to the CPA firm. And I said at that point in time, if I never sell a business, I at least met my wife there. So I did. So I do things in non-traditional ways. Usually you go to Vegas and you leave everything in Vegas. I go to Vegas and I bring back a wife. So my wife was living in California at the time. She happened to be there for business, and we just met and started dating about a year later. So it's kind of a crazy story. So then I formed the acquisition group, and that company was there to prepare people for sale and then start brokering. And we focus on companies that had a valuation of about 20 million or less. We couldn't go higher because then the investment bankers really get in, and we really would have a hard time bringing value there. So this is kind of really what I want to talk about. This is what this is Apple Tree. This is what we've done. We've done 19 acquisitions in a 7-year period. We did it with not $1 out of our pocket. Not sure we could get it going today if we had to, with how banks are today after 2008, 2009, and not having a champion like Andy Yatsis and Glenn Coker. But 19 acquisitions in total. My role within the company was not to be their day-to-day in management, because I was trying to grow a CPA firm and run that day-to-day. My role was to go out and find transactions, negotiate those deals, do the due diligence, close the transaction, and then manage cash flow at 30,000 feet, because we had a controller, and manage the banking relationship. That was my role. So there'd be weeks where I don't do anything, and then in a year like 2007, where we did 6 acquisitions, I was on a plane half the time, during the year because I'm flying out to do diligence, I'm flying out to close deals. So my time ebbed and flowed based on our activity. So we did 2 in 2003. That was the Pensacola and Maine one we talked about. And then for 2004, we didn't do any. Not because we didn't want to. They weren't there. But it was one of those blessings in disguise because it allowed us to get grounded and really start to put our business together. Our deal range, our smallest one was $300,000 down in Atlanta. We did that just because we wanted to be in a major hub, and we had an existing facility there, and we had a salesperson that we were going to hire down there, to $4.5 million out in Chicago. Average deal size was $1.5 million, $1.7 million, somewhere in that range. Company grew. We were 20 people maybe when we started, working in a basement in Trolley Square, and we grew to about 700 people with 24 locations around the country from Maine, Portland, Maine, down to Puerto Rico, and from Delaware, and we had 3 offices in California. We were an Inc. 500, and not 5,000, Inc. 500 firm 5 times in a row. I don't know how many times we're on the 5,000, but why we were successful. We were successful mostly because of my partner. I had my role to play in doing the deals. It was a really good marriage because even though I'm that risk taker, I still stand on this side of the aisle and say, okay, let's be prudent. And he kept pulling me to the other side, the bad side, right? But our culture was everything. We invested in our culture. We lived our core values every single day. We were employee-centric. We invested in our people. That culture that we had at that firm, and it's sad to see where that culture is today, because now we sold, and it got sold to a publicly traded company, and it just evaporates. And we know because we were there for 6 or 9 months afterwards, and we also have a lot of friends that are still there. But that culture is what grew that firm. Even though we were a 700-person company in 24 sites, and had a lot of people even work from home, so we were really in more sites, we were a family company. We integrated our site day one. We got the owner out. Day one, we didn't want the previous owner in there. We got him out, and we integrated the site immediately. We did a deal down in Houston. I don't remember what year it was. Probably around 10 or 11. And Houston had 3 different sites. They had one in Houston and a couple other smaller ones in Texas. And at that time, we were doing a video campaign of each office. And each office was doing one about being part of the Appletree family. So this office, and you got to think of this industry. This industry is really easy, right? You can pick it up and move it. All you're doing is rerouting phone traffic. So your operators are immediately scared because they think that their job is going to be lost. So that's why we had to immediately integrate and say, we never closed an office. We never fired anybody, at least initially. But 2 weeks after we bought Houston put together a video, and I wish I could probably pull it up and Google it, but what they did is they had their shirts on of the old company, and they blended the new shirt into an Appletree shirt. And it was just really neat to see how the new folks really bought into the culture, and they bought into it immediately. Built out the infrastructure. This is where me and John really play tug of war, right? I'm like, let's go get the business, and then we'll build out the infrastructure. John's like, let's build out the infrastructure, and then go find the business. I'm somewhere in between now, but we built the foundation. We had the walls up, and then we went out and found the business. And the reason why it worked for us is because we were growing so fast. If we didn't do that, and we were always hiring management in arrears, our performance would have suffered, and we would have lost business. I talked about the strong banking relationship. So when you guys start your business, make sure you have a strong relationship with that loan officer. Make sure you educate that officer about your business and what you're going to do. Make sure you do what you say you're going to do. exceed the expectations. And we had to hit quarterly numbers. We had to hit quarterly covenants that we had to hit. So we couldn't miss a quarter. And if we did, we had to tell them, but we never had to. But admit, and then in one instance there, I put admit your mistakes. So we bought two centers in one in Memphis, Tennessee, and one in West Memphis, Arkansas. It's right across the river from each other. They were a disaster. They were a mistake. And we were not good at cleaning stuff up. It wasn't worth the resources. And I went to the bank and said, hey, we're going to sell this. We're going to take about a $300,000 or $400,000 hit. I thought the bank was going to be pissed. It actually gave us a tremendous amount of goodwill because we were first honest, and we made a mistake, and we didn't throw good money after bad, because it would have taken a lot of money and resources to fix those centers. We could have fixed it. It just would have taken a lot of our attention and money away from it. And we sold it, took a hit, moved on. Bank absolutely loved it. This is the accounting side of it. Invest in your accounting. So I had this client. They had about 9 mobile communication stores at the time. I said, you got to get your books and records. They wouldn't do it. Then they had about 35. They were literally doing their accounting for 35 stores, doing $30 million with a clerk. You can't make business decisions that way. You just can't. You need to know where your numbers are on a timely basis, right? For one, if you're looking at February's numbers today, they're stale already, right? Because accountants are always looking in the rearview mirror. My job as a CPA, I try to look forward, and there's things that I do to try to predict where the company's going, called rates of change. We don't have time for that today, but you got to have good timely accounting. So invest in your accounting department, because that'll allow you to make decisions. This is something I learned from my partner. I mean, I want to win every war, or every battle. That's just who I am. I'll fight and fight and fight. But when we were trying to do Chicago, the owners wanted to come on, and we didn't really want them to come on. Like I said, we got rid of all the owners. And there was just a lot of issues associated with this. They were in trouble, and it was just a battle to get this thing done. And I just kept fighting and pushing back. And they had a 50% partner. We're trying to buy that partner out, and it was just a war. And John's like, let's just get this thing closed. Let's remember, let's win the war. We don't need to win this battle. Immediately, I think the owners stayed with us about 3 months, and we got rid of them. Ability to see the future, right? Every entrepreneur has that ungodly ability to look out and see what's going to happen. My partner has that. I have it to a certain degree, but he had the ability to know where this industry was going. He knew this industry inside and out. He knew the business of growing this business. I don't know if, Rebecca, did you send out that link for that Dream On video? No, that's it. So if you want, it's too long to play today, but there's a video called Dream On. If you go into Google or YouTube, put Dream On and Apple Tree, and there's a video there. And this will explain the program but much better, or not explain the program. It'll show the impact of this program. But we basically stole this from Make-A-Wish Foundation. And it was a program that allowed us to show our employees that we cared. So you got to remember, our frontline operators, they're, depending on the region, they're $8 to $11, $12 an hour folks. They don't have a lot. So we created, and they were our number one asset. That's who our whole company was focused on, those agents. We didn't call them operators. We called them agents. So we started this program. And our turnover at the time was industry norm, 100% turnover. So think about it. At the time, we had, I don't know when we started the program, how many agents we had. But at the end, I think we were close to 400, north of 400. Rehiring 400 people every year, because that's what 100% turnover. It doesn't mean everybody quits every year. It just means that same position, somebody may quit 3 times during the year. We got our turnover down to 25%. And what it was as simple that somebody had a wish. Simple wish of, I really want to throw a birthday party for my daughter, but I can't afford it. So what we did is we sent them down to Disneyland. And I should know this because I have 2-year-olds. I don't know, the princess thing down there. So, but she wanted to be with that princess down at Disneyland. So we flew her, the mom down, the daughter down, and a friend and their daughter, and paid their expenses for 3 or 4 days, and they got to go to Disneyland. One needed a headstone for their mom, because their mom died. They couldn't afford a headstone. I start to tear up even just telling this story. Wanted to take one last vacation with their mom, because their mom was dying, so we paid for a vacation. Big story on that video, if you guys go see it, about 7 or 8 minutes. And I highly recommend it, because this will impact you for when you guys own your own business, and how you treat your employees, and what you'll get back from it. But there was a guy, there was an operator or an agent in Wilmington whose husband was stage 4 cancer. Somebody else got their dream granted, and they went to management and said, "I don't want my dream, give it to this person." All this guy wanted to do was go see a Philadelphia Eagle game. So what we did is we sent a limo to him, and he just thought he was going to the Eagle game. So the limo came to his house, they jump in the limo, they go up to the Eagle game. Before the game, they were on the field. After the game, they were in the locker room. Just a great experience, right? He had nothing to live for prior to that. The guy is still alive today and cancer-free. We didn't cure it. It was all mental, and obviously the medicine that he was getting was working, and that his attitude helped. It's really powerful stuff. On average, it was $5,000 to hire somebody and train somebody. That's what it cost you, and that doesn't even tell you the cost on losing business, right? If you have somebody bad on the phone, they just leave you. So how much revenue we could have lost that we did lose when our turnover was 100%. So treat your employees, I say, like gold. And sometimes it's going to be really hard, because you got the person who's always bugging you. When's my next raise? That's not enough raise. I need to take time off. I come in late. That's what's happening. I'll tell you to invest the time and money in the people who are your high performers, and get rid of your low performers. But treat your people like gold. And don't be disappointed when they think the grass is greener on the other side, because they will. Even the person who you think you went over the top on, they will leave and they will disappoint you. But don't let that change how you view taking care of your employees. So we sold it in 2012. We started thinking about selling it. There was some risk on the horizon for us, the Affordable Care Act. Even though we did provide health insurance, we didn't know if we were going to meet all the qualifications, just the cost of it. There was something called the universal service fee. If you look at your cell phone bill, you see something down there, it's probably a couple dollars. That was going to remember, we have, I don't know, 60, 70 T1 lines coming into our office. Each one of the trunks, and I don't know the difference inside, didn't have this universal service fee. But in the end, it was going to cost us $60,000 or $70,000 a month. It was not going to put us out of business, but it was going to be impactful to our business. It still hasn't passed. We worked with our senators here in the state, and it still has not passed. We had all our eggs in one basket, right? All our net worth was in this business. So if something happened in this business, hurricane, because we had a couple sites down in, we had a couple sites in Florida, we had a couple sites in Houma, and if you know where Houma is southwest of New Orleans. And you think, I thought about that, and I said, isn't that in the middle of the Gulf somewhere? It's literally the last town before you get to the marshland. So, one event, an earthquake in California, it could put us out of business. And we found a strategic buyer, somebody who looked at us as a platform so that they could grow a business. I hate selling my business based on a multiple. So when you guys go and sell your business, don't let somebody tell you, I'm going to pay you 4 times or 5 times EBITDA. You want to find a buyer that's going to give you strategic value. We sold to the largest medical waste hauler in the world. What the heck is a medical waste hauler in the world buying us? Well, they bought a company about 6 months before us in patient communications. And they thought we were 100% medical, and we weren't. We were only about 30% medical. So we had to convince them, why do you want to limit your customer base to this big when it can be this big? So that company ended up being the platform for the medical communication side, and we ended up being the platform for the commercial side. So they saw strategic value because now they have customers that they can sell their services in, or we can sell our services into their customers that we don't have yet. So think of the power of that leverage. So I put this little segment in here, what business should I start, right? You get the other question, what should I be in? And I can't tell you what to be in, because you don't know. I never thought I'd grow up and own a call center, right? Make sure that you can duplicate it, right? It's duplicatable. And that's what we did. We built the business. We built the business on this. Anybody read this book, The E-Myth Revisited? No? All right. Well, because I don't plan, I forgot to order them, so the store only had 2 of them, so I bought 2 of them. If you guys want a book, I'll buy you a book and I'll send it to you. So you just got to give me your contact information. But it talked about standardizing and working on your business, not in your business. Don't get sucked into it. If you get sucked into it, forget it. You're not moving the business forward. The ability to leverage the business, and even though we were leveraged to the hilt from a debt perspective, I don't mean it from that. What can you do to leverage your business so that it can expand revenue? So like you take the CPA world. It's leverageable to the extent that you can hire a bunch of people underneath you, and you have people working and billing, and you're covering their costs, you're covering your overhead, and then there's a profit component. But in terms of the things that I love to do in the CPA world, it's not duplicatable because I can't duplicate myself. Recurring revenue. Gotta love recurring revenue. So we had 12,000 customers paying us every single month. We got to touch them every single day, every single month. Recurring revenue. Figure out your phone bill, right? It's recurring revenue. It's a stream of income. That's why we were able to get the financing. Because if our revenue was contract revenue, we're not in business. Diversified customer base. Like I said, we had 12,000 customers. So when we started thinking about selling our business, we were trying to figure out who wants to buy us. We thought a web design company might want to buy us, right? Sell web designs into our 12,000 customers. Sexy? It doesn't have to be sexy. The call center business is not sexy. Apple Tree Answering Service, Inc. is not really sexy. Google, right? That's sexy. And it can be sexy, but it doesn't have to be. You'll find it. My wife always says, your pet finds you, the business found me. I had another slide and she didn't do it, so I have to go to my notes. Just in summary of what my goals. But what I learned, and this is not even half of what I've learned, but it's just hopefully some takeaways for you guys as you guys start your career here over the next couple of years. First and foremost, you got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe in yourself. But there's a difference between being cocky and confident. Cocky doesn't do well, right? It might do well in the short term, but be confident. Believe in yourself. Because if you believe in yourself, your people are going to believe in yourself. When I left Cobra and Rossiter, I didn't have anything, and people followed me and my customer base. 100% of my customer base followed me. It was unprecedented. I was shocked. My ex-partners were shocked. But believe in yourself. It's okay to also be scared. Andy Yatsis, our loan officer, said to me, he's like, and I was nervous every time signing those stinking papers, right? Because he's signing our life away. We probably borrowed $25-30 million over the life of Apple Tree. He's like, I don't like anybody not coming in here nervous. Because if you're not nervous, that's when he gets nervous. It's okay to be nervous, but still believe in your ability. Write down your goals. Write them down every single year on January 1st. What you're going to accomplish. Paint a picture. You can do it in memo form. Don't do it in bullet form. Do it in memo form about where you're going to be, where your company's going to be. Paint the picture forward. It's amazing what comes true. I set a goal. I didn't know what it meant. I wrote this goal when I graduated college. 1990, I said, I'm going to be able to walk Junior to school. And what that meant to me was that I didn't have to go to work. That I could walk Junior to school. It doesn't mean that it wasn't going to work, but I had the flexibility. It did not have to be at work. I was a guy who got in the office at 6:30 in the morning. Now I stroll in at 8:45 because I take my kid to school. But write your goal. So I wrote this goal down, that I would be financially independent before I had kids. So I got married a second time, obviously, to Amy from Las Vegas, or from California, but via Las Vegas. And we were later in life, couldn't have kids, so we started the adoption process. We sold the business on June 4th, which turned out to be my birthday. So make sure you send me a birthday card. On June 7th, I'm driving to play golf. My wife calls me. She's like, pull over. I said, I can't pull over. She's like, I'm late. I'm going to play a practice round, and I have a 3-day member guest that I'm playing over, going to the country. She's like, yeah, pull over. I said, I can't pull over. And then she was happy. I knew nobody was sick. She's like, we've been selected. That meant a birth mom selected us. I'm like, that's great. She can go any minute. So now I'm thinking, oh my God, my golf game's going to be wrecked this weekend. So then she goes, you really need to pull over. And I said, I can't, I'm late. She's like, it's twins. So here I am, 46 years old at the time, and I'm going to be a father of twins 2 weeks after I sold my business. It's powerful to write your goals down. They will come true if you do that. It's powerful. I had no idea it was going to happen. It did. So now I'm up all night with twins. And it couldn't be better. Don't get emotional. I'm an emotional guy. I get emotional all the time. I get emotional talking about the Dream On program. I get emotional about what I just talked about. But when I say it's okay to be emotional, it's okay to be a human. But what I'm saying, don't be emotional. If you're buying that company, don't get emotional about buying that company. It might not be the right one. Don't get emotional about selling your company. Do it on facts. That stuff you don't get emotional about. I had a client 2 years ago. I'm running a little long, I'm sorry. I'll stay as long as you guys want to answer questions. I had a client that was selling his business. He was selling it for $25 million. I said, John, you and your wife need to sit down and figure out where you're going to draw the line of sand. Because after due diligence, they will come back and they will lower that price. And sure enough, they did. Came down to like $18 million, and he walked. So then I saw him in a restaurant, and I said to Lisa, I said, I'm really sorry I gave him that advice. And John's like, no, that was the best advice I ever got. 6 months later, he sold his business for them. So he didn't get emotional. It was factual. He knew what he wanted. He made a decision. And $18 million, you can live a couple lifetimes on that. Don't get emotional about business decisions. Develop your core values. Figure out who you are. My personal one is my health, my family, my business. If I take care of my health, I can take care of my family. And then I'll take care of my business. But figure out what your core values are for you, and then figure out what your core values are for your business. And live them. Preach them every day. I already told you about win the war, not the battle. I already told you about good financials, and invest in your people. So I thank you for allowing me to come and talk to you. I wish you guys nothing but the best. If there's anything I could ever do, you let me know. I'm easily findable. And if you do want the E-Myth, I'm going to give one to Rebecca, because she, I was supposed to speak last Friday, and I had to go to Los Angeles, and she was able to move it to today, so I appreciate that. And I have one more book, so we'll figure out how we're going to give that out. But I personally will buy you guys books if you want them. Just got to leave me your contact information, and I'll mail them out. All right? Questions?
So you talked about core values and your company culture and why that was so important, right? Having a cohesive team, leading towards one vision. So could you talk a little more about how you developed those core values? Like, was it just you and your partner? Did you bring in all the employees, the 20 employees from your startup in? And, how did you integrate them in with that vision as a leader?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's, I'm a big believer that you have to bring other people into that. So our management team was involved with developing the core values of the company. But I take a step back from that. You as the leader of that company, you still need to come with the basis for that. And not that you want to give it out, you want to lead that horse to that water, right? So even though I want to involve everybody, I think you're going to have to play a really big role in it, and you have to play a big role in it kind of quietly. Because if it's just you driving it, people aren't not going to buy into it. How we got everybody else to buy in it that wasn't part of that team is we lived it. So we would do like different things in terms of I'm looking for the word. Different themes, whether it was a football theme on a Friday and everybody comes dressed as football, we would take one of our core values and implement it in that. We would let people nominate somebody in the firm who lived that core value, and they would get noticed and they would get whatever, a gift card or whatever. But we wanted people to be recognized for living our core values, and that's how our guys bought in.
What personal qualities do you possess that you think made everyone believe in you and invest in you along the way?
I don't know. I almost dropped out of Delaware. At a high school, I actually didn't even go to college right away. I went to a prep school because I was trying to play football. I was not a good student. I was a 2.7 student here. I think I have the ability, especially in the CPA world, I have the ability to be, I can be in any type of atmosphere. If I'm dealing with that CEO in that suit, I can be that guy. If I have to be with that guy in that blue collar world in the construction site, I can be that guy. Sometimes on the techie side, I can't be in that world just because I just can't even keep up. But I always, my integrity was number one. And I think that comes across, and I think people believed in me because I was honest. And I'm not a PC person. I tried, and it just never worked out. Usually I always had to backpedal because they did some things, but people just believed in me, I think, just because they believed in my honesty and my integrity. And that just came across somehow. My parents believed in me my freshman year when I got here. Had a really bad fall semester, my first semester. I think I had a 1.6. Then I took winter session and I got a D, so I went down to 1.5. I really just got to construction. And my dad's like, give it one more semester. So I didn't go out for spring ball because I played fall. And I said, I just focus on school. And that semester I got two A's in college. And I got one of my A's that semester, so that's what brought me back. And I made a very good decision that year because they wanted me to, it was in calculus, and my calculus teacher said, "Why don't you become a math major?" What am I going to do with that? So fortunately, I did not become a math major.
What are your future plans for both the business and yourself?
If it was up to my wife, we'd be in California. I don't know. One of the reasons I merged was it gives me that opportunity to leave, at a more recent time frame. If I keep staying, if I had kept with Cetrulo and Morgan, I have to hope and pray that I have the right person to take it over, who wants to take it over, and has the ability to take it over, and has the finances to take it over. So I've set that up for me, that, and I committed 5 years to this firm. So two and a half years from now, I have to make a decision. Because if I do leave, I got to give them 2 years notice. I am working with another company right now. I'm working with two companies. One that I have equity in. It's what I enjoy, is trying to build a company. This is a company from scratch. So I see myself eventually just picking one company and working with it and trying to move it along. That's where I see myself eventually. Or I go down the path of becoming, I like the investment banking side, and the investment banking company that sold our company, they wanted me to rep their companies in DC and Philly, and then the kids came, and I had to simplify my life. I wanted one job for right now. But I don't know, but it's going to be somewhere in building a business. And maybe it's the opportunity that I have in front of me right now that we're trying to raise money for.
So like one more question.
Yeah, so you talked about some personal hardships in here, and you talked about how you should not be emotional. So we're not really that experienced, you know, as experienced as you are as an entrepreneur. So could you talk about, you know, how you've kept believing in yourself through those hardships when it seemed like people or events in your life didn't believe in you, and did you learn from them and grow from them?
No, I never had the closest thing I had to a mentor was the partner at Coburn Rossiter. You know, he took me under his wings. I actually started there as an intern my junior semester in '88, and then I worked there through the rest another year and a half. So he mentored me. He taught me the accounting side. So, you know, I had an innate ability to believe in myself, no matter how low that I was. And when I was going through that litigation, when I was leaving Coburn Rossiter, I was about what I weigh today, 215, 220 pounds. By September, I was down to about 180. So the stress of going through that, where he was my mentor, he was my best friend, I was the godfather to his son, and the man's trying to destroy you. But I still believed in myself. And I had a meeting with a company called Sage Financial Group. We had a joint venture with them. And I went up to meet with them. This is in September of 2002. And we just started this joint venture. And it was a venture where we brought assets under management, they managed it, and they pay us a fee. And I told him, I said, I think you should stick with me. I said, it sounds really funny because I'm going to be a 5-person accounting firm and there are 35, 40 people. Actually, at the time there were 50 people, I guess. And but if you do business with me, they will leave you. I guarantee you. And I said, I don't want an answer right now. I want you to think about it. And so the time I was driving back on the Blue Route, back to my office, Stephen Cohn called me and said, we're with you. I don't know what he saw in me, but I always call him my fuel truck. He gave me fuel to go the next 2 months to continue battling with them, because I was thinking about doing something different. Like, it just wasn't worth it at that point in time. So there's something in me that he saw, and I don't know what it is. It goes back to your question, but he said he's with me. You know, and now we have probably $100 million under management in my joint venture with them that I brought to them. And I get a residual. It's paid monthly recurring, you know, every quarter. Just, you got to have the ability to believe in yourself. And my parents were great role models. None of my family were entrepreneurs. Like, they weren't. My dad was an accountant. I didn't want to be an accountant, but I didn't get into the business school because I didn't have the grades, so I went to the accounting school, and at the time, accounting was there was a lot of good jobs for accounting. Except when I graduated, of course, in 1990. But I did have some good timing moments. The moment with John, meeting my wife. I don't know, just, people will pick you up. And when I started Cetrulo in Morgan, the community knew how bad I was treated on that exit, and the community rallied around me. That is impactful. That gave me energy to move. And I remember a friend coming down when I was thinking about starting that intermediary firm to have him come down and do it with me. I remember showing him around town. I was showing Wilmington, and Wilmington's small. Who's from Delaware? Right? Everybody knows everybody here, right? And I'm not a Delawarean. I'm originally from Jersey, but I've been here long enough. I've been here more than half my life. And he's like, wow, you know everybody. And everybody just believed in me, and they referred this business. They helped me grow the business and supported me in a lot of ways. be true to who you are, be honest, be much more PC than me, but be honest. So there's a different way to do it. I just don't have that ability to do it. And people will always pick you up because you're going to have down moments, guys. This is college, the best years of your life, because we feel like we have a lot of pressure in college because we got that midterm. But and I didn't have kids until I was 46. I didn't feel like I had a lot of pressure. Like it was just me. I could figure out how to take care of myself, right? Now I got kids. That's pressure, right? If he wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I got to be up with him. So there's going to be ups and downs. Just believe in yourself. People around you, if you pick them up when they were down, they're going to pick you up. You'll find it. Belief is big. I'm not very religious, but I do believe in myself. I believe in fate to a certain degree, and even though I'm just not a very religious guy, it doesn't. Again, it goes back to my Jekyll and Hyde personality of being a CPA and an entrepreneur in the same body. It's tough being me. It's fun being me because I can have that conservative style, but then I also can have that. I can go take that risk and do the fun stuff. So.
Thank you very much,
Yep.
Rob. Thank you.